What are the scariest crimes being committed? Let's find out, starting with number 7. The casino winners ambushed. Val Delacruz and Kim Chambliss were returning home from a night at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Florida when their night took a pretty scary turn. After enjoying a typical date night, Val hit a jackpot, walking away with about $3,300 in winnings. As the couple drove home, blissfully unaware of the danger following them, 2 masked men weren't far behind. The assailants, identified as Marcus Jenkins and Tristan Wright, had been watching Val and Kim for nearly 2 hours at the casino. When the couple arrived home, the men ambushed them in their driveway. Demanding the couple's money, the robbers opened fire, hitting both Val and Kim. Val was hit multiple times, including in both legs, while Kim was hit in the back of her leg. Despite the severe injuries, Val managed to plead with the men, but they took off with the couple's winnings, Val's watch and Kim's purse. The terrifying encounter captured on the couple's doorbell camera showed Val collapsing in the doorway while Kim scrambled to safety inside. Thanks to quick work of first responders, Val's life was saved after deputies applied a tourniquet to his leg. Val was left in excruciating pain and faced a long recovery, unable to walk and missing out on important moments like taking his son to his first day of school. But at least he was alive. The suspects were arrested after investigators reviewed surveillance footage from the casino. Both Jenkins and Wright faced several charges and look to be facing some serious time. It's crazy that this happened, and we're glad these 2 are going to be okay, and the bad guys were caught. This seems like one of those crimes where once you hear about it, you're kind of surprised it doesn't happen more often, right? Number 6. The Psychopath Next Door. Randolph Sanders, an assistant director at the child advocacy organization Turning Points for Children, made a desperate choice when he feared his career was at risk. His actions led to a tragic outcome, and though he tried to conceal his involvement, the truth soon caught up with him. Sanders worked under Kim Jones, a well-respected program director, for over 2 years. However, as investigations revealed, Sanders had stolen roughly $40,000 from the organization. When Jones discovered his theft, she scheduled a meeting with the Department of Human Services to report him. Faced with the possibility of being exposed and losing his $68,000 a year salary, Sanders decided to act. One morning, Sanders concealed a firearm in his duffel bag and waited for Jones near her regular bus stop. He hid his face under a cap and bulky headphones to avoid detection by security cameras. As Jones stood at the bus stop, listening to music and unaware of the threat behind her, Sanders approached. Without warning, he fired at her from behind, instantly ending the mother of 2's life. Despite committing the crime, Sanders acted as if he were a concerned colleague. He called Jones's phone, leaving a message asking about her well-being, and even attended her funeral. At the time, no one suspected him. He gave a public interview expressing shock and sadness over her passing. However, police were already piecing together evidence. Surveillance footage captured Sanders' movements before and after the crime, tracing his path to a 2007 GMC Yukon he owned. Detectives, aware of the tension between Jones and Sanders, brought him in for questioning. After 2 weeks of maintaining his innocence, Sanders finally confessed. He claimed that the situation just got out of hand and that he didn't intend to end her life, but was desperate to prevent her from reporting him. Sanders was charged for his clearly intentional and thought-out crime, and after a short trial, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Despite overwhelming evidence, including his own confession, Sanders continued to insist on his innocence, saying he had never stolen from the organization nor intended to harm Jones. Jones's family, devastated by the loss, found it hard to believe that someone they had trusted could commit such a horrific act. Her son, Andre Jordan, couldn't believe that Sanders could actually attend the funeral and interact with the family while knowing he had taken her life. The fact that he legit went to the funeral and watched her entire family grieve, then still proclaim his innocence, is crazy. We're glad this dude is locked away. Number 5. Bitcoin scam stopped. An elderly woman in Texas was almost scammed out of nearly $24,000 by heartless criminals. But quick actions from a kind-hearted person and the police saved her from a total loss. The woman had been convinced by scammers pretending to be from Chase Bank that she was in danger and needed to deposit her money into a Bitcoin ATM at a Chevron gas station. Sergeant James Stewart, responding to a concerned onlooker's 911 call, intervened just in time. When he approached the woman, she insisted she was on the phone with Chase Bank, but it was the scammers manipulating her. They had convinced her to withdraw $40,000 from her bank and were guiding her to deposit the cash into the ATM. Body cam footage showed Stewart taking the phone and confronting the scammer, who falsely claimed to be part of a bank security team. Stewart didn't buy it for a second and told the scammer that if they were present, they'd be in handcuffs. The criminal tried to regain control, calling the woman by the wrong name multiple times, which only further enraged the officer. Apparently, the scammer had been after the woman for days, even arranging rides for her to get the money and reach the ATM. They used a common trick known as phone spoofing, which made the woman believe she was speaking with Chase Bank due to the familiar number on her caller ID. The scammers also pressured her with threats of arrest if she didn't comply. Fortunately, a bystander named Mindy Jordan noticed something was wrong. Having experienced identity theft herself, she quickly called the police after seeing the woman repeatedly feeding $100 bills into the machine while on a suspicious phone call. Jordan's intervention led to Stewart and another officer arriving just in time to stop the transaction. Thanks to Jordan's awareness and Stewart's swift action, the woman was saved from losing her entire life savings. White Settlement Police are now working to recover the funds, and Jordan will be honored for her role in stopping the scam. Even though this poor woman still lost a hefty chunk of money, it's nice to know that sometimes strangers really can be heroes. Number 4, the fake friend. Luke DeWitt, a 34-year-old from Essex, orchestrated a chilling and calculated plot to end the lives of millionaire couple Stephen and Carol Baxter. Hired in 2013 to help the Baxters with their business, DeWitt slowly embedded himself into their lives under the guise of friendship. Over the course of a decade, he manipulated the couple through multiple fake personas, all with the goal of taking over their shower mat company, Kaz Splash, by forging a will. Despite his claims that the Baxters considered him an adopted son, their daughter Ellie said they had grown irritated by his constant presence and actually referred to him as a nerdy weirdo. DeWitt's true intentions became clear when in April of 2023, he poisoned the couple with a powerful substance 100 times stronger than morphine while watching their passing unfold through a secret surveillance app. DeWitt, who was nearby when Ellie discovered her parents' bodies, coolly called emergency services, playing the role of a concerned family friend. However, police quickly saw through this charade. As the investigation unfolded, it became pretty obvious that DeWitt had concocted an elaborate plan to gain control of the Baxters' business and wealth. He even went as far as to draft a fake will, naming himself as a company director. The evidence quickly piled up, including some illegal substance patches found at DeWitt's home that matched those at the crime scene. His intricate scheme involved more than 20 fake online personas, including doctors and experts who gave the Baxters advice that led them to trust him implicitly. He regularly prepared remedies for them, which investigators believe were laced with substances to weaken their state of mind. At his trial, the jury unanimously convicted him. The primary detective described DeWitt as one of the most dangerous individuals he had ever encountered and was convinced that had DeWitt not been caught, he would have gone on to commit more crimes. The court also heard heart-wrenching testimony from the Baxters' children, Ellie and Harry, who spoke of the devastation DeWitt had caused. Their mother had been full of life, and their father, a hard-working man, never got the chance to meet his new grandchild. During his trial, DeWitt claimed that Stephen Baxter had asked him to create the fake online personas and draft messages encouraging Carol Baxter to take her medication. He also said that he had no involvement in their passing, denying that he poisoned them. Additionally, DeWitt suggested that there had been collusion between himself and Stephen Baxter, which would explain the presence of the fake will. The jury thankfully didn't buy DeWitt's defense, and he'll spend the rest of his life behind bars. Number 3, the textbook scam. Natalie Foster, a 42-year-old mother of 3, was looking for a connection, but ended up losing much more than she bargained for. What began as a simple swipe on Tinder turned into a devastating financial nightmare, costing her $7,500 and nearly her peace of mind. Natalie met a man who called himself James on the dating app, and the pair quickly hit it off. He was charming, good-looking, and constantly talked about crypto, which impressed her. Soon after their initial connection, James convinced Natalie to set up a crypto wallet, which which allows users to trade and store digital currency. The scam started small, with Natalie investing $385 into a crypto platform and seeing a quick return of $100, which made her trust James even more. Encouraged, she invested more money, totaling $7,500 over the course of their conversations. James, for his part, was very convincing and even introduced Natalie to his fake uncle, who claimed to have insider knowledge of a once-in-a-century crypto opportunity. James and his fake contacts lured Natalie into believing she had made a profit of $86,000 on her crypto trades. But when she tried to withdraw her money, her account balance mysteriously dropped to zero. Customer service, which was also part of the scam, demanded that she pay 20% in taxes, about $25,000, to a New York bank account before she could access her profits. At first, Natalie thought the request was legitimate when James even added $5,000 to her account to make it look more convincing. But a conversation with her ex-partner made her realize the harsh reality. She had fallen for a classic crypto scam. Confronting James only resulted in his cruel response, telling her to end everything before he unmatched her and disappeared. Natalie was left devastated, not just by the loss of her money, which was inherited from her grandfather, but by the emotional toll the scam took on her. She since reported the crime to authorities and hired a lawyer to try to recover her savings. This is a textbook scam and a warning that you should never send money or invest with people you've never met in real life. And even then, you should be cautious, because those types of mistakes can seldom be undone. Number 2, the Grandparent Scam. 6 individuals were arrested in Florida for defrauding senior citizens out of nearly $250,000 using a common scam known as the Grandparent Scam. The alleged perpetrators, Jairo Izquierdo, Genesis Castro, Wendy Angelina Ortiz, Ada Tito, Wandy Castro, and Olfa Corniel, targeted elderly victims across multiple counties. The group convinced victims that their grandchildren were in legal trouble, claiming they had been arrested after hitting a pregnant woman with a vehicle. To create urgency, the scammers posed as the grandchildren's lawyers, telling the seniors they needed bail money immediately. They then arranged for the victims to send cash, using unknowing rideshare drivers to pick up the packages and transport the money to locations of the fraudsters' choosing. The scheme went even further in several cases. Victims were repeatedly contacted with the scammers inventing more severe charges or complications to get even more money. One victim, initially defrauded for $9,000, was later told the woman had miscarried, prompting another demand for $18,000. Eventually, the scammers fabricated an incident where the victim's grandson supposedly hit a police officer, leading to another $20,000 in bail requests and $7,500 in court fees. Altogether, this victim was swindled out of $54,000. Another senior lost $53,000 in a similar scenario, and others handed over tens of thousands of dollars based on false claims about escalating legal and medical costs. These scammers exploited the vulnerability and care that many grandparents feel for their family, manipulating them with fear and fabricated emergencies. However, thanks to the collaboration of law enforcement agencies, these 6 individuals were charged with multiple felonies, including organized fraud and grand theft, and are now facing justice for their actions. As always, this is a good time to let your elderly loved ones know about this type of scam so that they don't fall for it too. Number 1, the Landlord and the Tarantula. Jackie Vasquez, a Minnesota attorney, and her landlord, Marissa Simonetti, had a heated dispute over an Airbnb rental in Minneapolis. Simonetti, a candidate for the Hennepin County Board, rented out a room to Vasquez, but after a series of conflicts, Simonetti canceled the arrangement. Edina, where the house was located, doesn't permit short-term rentals anyway, another layer to the conflict. According to Simonetti, Vasquez created a tense atmosphere, often sending her long text messages and becoming disruptive late at night. Vasquez, however, claimed that Simonetti cut off her internet access and created an unsafe environment. Both parties accused each other of making threats, with Vasquez claiming that Simonetti's actions forced her to stay barricaded in the basement where she had been living. The tension peaked when Simonetti reportedly tried to forcibly enter the basement and Vasquez shut the door on her arm. Vasquez claimed this was unintentional, explaining that she was simply protecting her space. Police were called to the house several times that day, but no resolution was reached. In a bizarre turn, Simonetti, feeling threatened, actually bought a live tarantula and claimed she gently tipped it down the stairs toward Vasquez. However, Vasquez claimed the spider was thrown at her. This ultimately led to Simonetti's arrest, with the court filing citing fear of bodily harm. After the incident, local Republican leaders distanced themselves from Simonetti, expressing embarrassment over the actions. Simonetti also had a history of legal issues, including a previous accusation of credit card fraud, though that case was settled out of court. Vasquez finally moved out of the property after Simonetti's arrest. Simonetti, released on her own recognizance, continues to face legal challenges stemming from this unusual altercation. We're not sure what Simonetti thought she was going to accomplish by throwing a spider at someone, but what a crazy thing to have happen, right? At the end of the day, it sounds like she got tangled up in her own web. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comment section what superpower you'd rather have. The ability to pause time for up to 2 hours at a time, once a day, or the ability to never have to sleep.